Hello and welcome back to Hobtech Cars. Today I am going to be refurbishing my Celica Gen 7 alloys. These wheels came off a TRD Sport M and they are the worst for wear. So today I'm going to show you how to strip these back, sand them back, paint them and have them looking as new. As you can see here, the wheels are in really poor condition. They've been left outside for a number of years by a previous owner, and I'm going to bring them back to factory condition. So the first thing I did was clean the inside of the rim with a wire brush. This is pretty dirty work, so I recommend wearing some goggles and a face mask. This is a good point to remove the weights that are on the inside of the wheel. Next, I applied Nitro Motor's wheel cleaner to help remove some of the contamination from the top level of the paint. And someone had previously touched up these wheels in black, so it would just instantly break down that paint. So I'm applying it here with a brush and applying the Nitro Motor's liberally, and essentially it just wipes off with a cloth. You can see here on the right hand side, I've done one wheel and the paint is basically melting off the alloy, and the left side is starting to melt and turn the paint into a liquid. So after you've done 4 wheels, you should end up with something that looks a little like this. This is what mine looked like. It's a pretty good base to start sanding the wheel. For the sanding of these wheels, I'm using my DeWalt rotary sander. I'm using a harsh grit of 120 to remove some of the dips and damage in the top layer of the paint. The aim here is to remove the top layer of the lacquer and eventually get down to bare metal. Once I was happy with the finish with the sander, I opted to use a 200 piece of sandpaper down with my hand just to smoothen out some of the rougher bits of the wheel to prepare the surface for paint. Once you are done, you should end up with something that looks like this, almost 100% back to bare metal, a very smooth, fine surface that will take a paint primer very well. So in general, the sanding and the Nitro Motors did a really good job of getting years of contamination and crap off these wheels and getting them ready for paint. So before painting them with your primer, I just recommend using some alcohol to take away any dust or other contaminants that might be laying on the surface. I am using a etch primer here today. It's a 2000 2K etch primer that's designed for putting onto car wheels. It's expensive, but it really does the business. I think this was about €40 a can, and I was able to do all 4 wheels with it. So this is how it should look after your first coat. Your first coat should be essentially just a tack coat. What that means is that you barely put a layer of paint onto the wheel. When that tack coat is complete, just simply do another second light layer again, let it dry for 15 minutes and do a third layer. At this point, if you see any imperfections in the paint, give it a light sanding with a very fine sandpaper of about 300 or 400 grit and layer another coat onto the primer again. So essentially for my wheels here, you're looking at about 3 or 4 layers of light primer, building up the layers between 15 minutes of drying in between. And you can see here the wheels look really good. They're very smooth, the paint is binded really well, and the wheels are ready for their next layer of paint. The paint that I'm going to use on these Celica wheels was colour matched to the original TRD Sport M colour. As closely as possible, I would call it a 99% match. It's this Holt's HD Grey M02. Holt's did, I think, about 5 or 6 different kind of dark grey colours, and I brought in a wheel into the shop and matched it by eye, and this is like really, really good 99% match for the original TRD colour on these wheels. So like with the primer, the first layer is just what we call a tack coat, a very light smattering of paint onto the wheel, and leave it dry for about 15 minutes. Your wheel should look something like mine did here. So for the next step, we're essentially just going to apply another second light coat of paint onto the wheels. Don't be overzealous here, just do a light coat. It should look something like this. After 15 minutes of drying, do a third coat of paint and be a bit more liberal applying the paint here, and make sure that all the surface of the wheel is covered and all of the primer spots are covered with paint. Leave it to dry for 15 minutes and if needed, apply a fourth coat of paint. Your wheels should now start to look something more like this. And once you're happy with that finish, be it 3 or 4 coats of paint, you're ready to apply your lacquer. The lacquer I'm using today is one that I've used on the channel before. It's the Simonez clear acrylic lacquer. It's a brilliant lacquer. It's cheap. I think it's about €10 for 500 mils. 3 cans should see you through doing all 4 wheels here, so 1.5 litres. The lacquer, as I say in all my videos, is tricky. What you're trying to do here is not do it all in one coat. Try and do 2 or 3 light coats of the lacquer, allowing it to dry for about 15 minutes between coats. Like in my video, the main outcome here that you want is to kind of mist the alloy wheel with the lacquer. You don't want it really sprayed too close to the surface, otherwise you'll end up with an orange peel effect and paint running. When the lacquer is finished, you should end up with something that looks like this. The wheel, I have to say, looks fabulous. The paintwork is immense on it. Leave it to dry for about 24 hours before you try doing anything with the wheels, like putting them onto your car. So as you can see here, patience is the name of the game. The more prep work you do up front with your wheels, the better finish you'll get when painting them. 90% of the work is in the sanding and the cleaning of the wheels, and after that the primer, the paint and the lacquer is much more trivial. So this is how my wheels turned out. This is my third set of wheels that I've ever refurbished, and with each passing turn I am definitely getting better and more accurate with my results. This is my first time using a dark colour versus a bright silver, so it was quite an enjoyable experience. The materials all in all cost me €70. The plan for these wheels had been to pop them onto my Jap import Toyota Celica Gen 7. However, since purchasing these wheels, I've actually sold the car. So these alloys are currently actually for sale. If you're interested in buying them, drop me a comment in the comment section. And that is it for today. So thank you for watching HobTech Cars. If you have any questions, drop a comment. If you enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.